Hello and welcome to episode 82 of the Boot Nerds podcast. JayMike, we took a week off. How you doing?
I'm good, my man. I'm good. We did indeed take a week off because there was, not much happening, and we figured, let's take a little break, come back stronger, and here we are today, episode 82. I am. What do you say in English? Reinvigorated. I'm ready. I'm pumped up. I'm psyched. But how are you?
I'm good. I like your commitment to always using these really big words that you kind of almost don't understand. I love that. That's great.
That's how you learn. And if I can hustle at least my way 90% through a sentence and sound kind of smart, then I guess I mess up 10% of the time, but
That's okay. That's my worst fear on the internet is saying something that I'm not 100% confident I know what it means, and then just being called out for it. So I admire your commitment to just taking the plunge.
Let me put it this way: if I screw up, I always use the second language excuse. I can just say, it's not because I'm stupid. It's just because it's my second language. So that's why you should speak more French. Because it's not. Is that your second language?
It is. It's technically my second language.
Okay.
But even in high school, trying to speak French, if I didn't know how to say it, I didn't attempt to say it in French. I just said it in English because I'm like, you know what? You're just going to make fun of me.
Yeah. I get you're all entitled to make fun of me, by the way, and so are you, Josh, by the way. If I say something ridiculously stupid, I guess it happens on occasion, and I guess if you went back in all these 81 previous episodes, there could be quite a long YouTube episode of just Jay saying words he has no idea what means.
That would be good.
But apart from that, things are good. And today we are going to talk about something that is also very good. But before we get started on that, if you have any questions for us, we're going to answer a bunch of them in the Q&A section in today's video. But if you want an answer to your question in the next episode of the Boot Nerds podcast, you can leave your question right down below. Also, while you're at it, if you enjoy the content, please leave a like on the video right here. We would appreciate that. It's called quite a lot. Also, if you don't want to look at me pretending to know English and just listen to it, well, you can go to the Boot Nerds. What's it called again? I forget. Bootnerdspodcast.com. Bootnerds.com. Bootnerds.com. See, it's. I've heard you say go to puregripsauce.com so many times now that I've just been brainwashed. Bootnerds.com is the place to go. But Josh, today we are talking about the latest and greatest release. It's coming from Nike, obviously. It's the Mercurial Dream Speed 3. And it's going to be worn by quite a lot of players this time round. I also believe you've seen this before, but since we're recording this a bit ahead, how much have you actually seen it? I
have seen the fake pairs that have been making the rounds on the internet that people have been sending to me as if they were real, not realizing that they were fake. But I mean, it's 90% of the idea in terms of at least the look of the boot. And you know what? It's an interesting look. And regardless of what you feel in regards to patterns, I think the combination of black and white with a little bit of silver, you can't really miss on that.
Now, I agree with you. And personally, I have been a little on the fence with the two previous Mercurial Dream Speed releases. MDS1 it was navy and it had a blueprint on it. It was it was what it was, right? And then the second one, I understood the story, but maybe the color combination wasn't, I probably liked it a little more at the time when it released, but looking back at it now, not super fun of it. But this, however, I think I'm also gonna like in 6 months' time, because I think this is super cool. Black and white, it always works, and the combination of all these little patterns, I'm gonna go into the story in a bit, but the combination, they've made something that looks bold without being too much. Do you know what I mean? It's not too youthful.
I don't know, for me, it's amazing that after so many Mercurial colorways, they can still come out with something that looks pretty unique. I will say that they kind of, my first impression was this kind of reminds me of some of the Black History Month collections that they've done in the past.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
In terms of like the combination of like a bunch of different patterns. It's cool.
Keep talking. I'll just get it.
Yeah. I also want to comment on MDS1 and MDS2 because I think MDS1 was actually pretty cool. I know a lot of people that watch my channel knew that I was a big fan of the giant ACC branding on that boot. I think that was pretty interesting. But then MDS2, I mean, if you're a fan of like the neon yellow color, it technically wasn't Volt. It was a little bit more green than that. But I don't know, it was maybe a little bit too colorful for me. But I think with this one, with the combination of black and white, there's black and white boots. They're going to make fun of me. Jay, I'm talking about Neymar and Jay has left. And when he comes back, I'm going to be talking about Neymar again. Jay, I'm talking about Neymar.
Oh, I'm not surprised. I've been basically setting my watch, counting how long it took for you to either mention the Pure Grip socks or Neymar. So I guess like 5 minutes.
I was running through the entire MDS history in my opinion on it, but then I said, I think the combination of black and white, while people that like Mercurials tend to prefer, I think, flashier colorways, black and white, courtesy of Neymar, seems to be pretty on trend at the moment. So I guess it makes sense to do a black and white Mercurial. MDS 1 was definitely better than MDS 2. Giant ACC logo. You can never go wrong with that.
That was the sole reason for you liking it, I guess. No, I mean, the MDS 2, it wasn't bad by any means. It had that, it had a little bit of that Vapor 3 R9, Brazil yellow-green vibes. Having the same, some of the same pattern, that dotted gradient pattern from the heel removed to the sole, and had the whole spectrum of light colorway. It's not bad looking, and I like the size of the swooshes and all, but it just looked a little it looked a little too. Can you say something is too colorful? Do you know what I mean? Like it was a little bit too. Maybe I'm old. I'm an old guy. I realize that, and I'm maybe a little bit too much of a boot conservative. But I mean, would I wear this in a match? Probably not. Would I wear this? I would be more inclined. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm at an age now where like, while I will wear super bright colors, I'm less inclined to do so than I once was at the age of 16 years old. And I think that's most people as they get older. But I don't know. That's an opinion for the boot nerds, I guess. But this black and white colorway, really cool. That Vapor 11, really cool. That's such an underrated colorway in the history of Mercs.
I was going to say, man, this is one of my absolute all-time favorite Mercurial colorways and designs. It's so cool in my opinion. You black, white, and gold, that always works. But when you put in all these little color pops and obviously the story behind it and the fact that it's a Vapor 11, nah, man, this is spectacular. And you're right, now that I'm looking at it, it does share some similarities in the sense that it's got black and white. There's some little like gold details it's called on there. You got some purple stripes, some probably like teal. It's probably teal. So there is a little bit, of the same design language in there, and that's pretty cool. I just want to quickly take you through the design of the boots. I'll try to make it as descriptive as possible for people who aren't watching this on YouTube but are listening on all the audio-only platforms. But basically, you have the white boot, and it hasn't been communicated like officially from Nike, but I guess it's down to the fact that CR7, which his career is what is the basis of the story of the boot, his path to success. So they basically made a white boot, which CR7 has previously said is his favorite boot color. So that's good. Then they have these little the webbing pattern that they have on the boot, which is basically a black background with a webbing pattern on. That's not a reference to the Sancho boots where he had the fences from around the street courts where he played. It's basically goal nets, which I guess is kind of nice. All the goal nets that CR7 has been hitting throughout his career. So all cool. Obviously, there is the Safari print, that iconic Safari print. We saw the remake of the boot earlier. And also the Safari print is made in a chevron pattern, which we also saw back in the day on his first signature boots, the CR7 Superfly 2 Safaris. So cool little combination there. Then you have what looks like they're almost like black chevrons. It looks a little bit like tire tracks also. And again, this is just me interpreting here. So I'm not sure there's any hole in this story, but I immediately thought of that Bugatti Veyron commercial. You remember back from 2008. And thought, maybe that's a cool little reference. And finally, we have some dots on a grid pattern, which is, and that's the official story, that is all the formations that Ronaldo has played for his club teams and the national teams throughout his career. So basically, this boot is made to use him as like a way of inspiring the next generation of world-class talent and passing on the baton. Time for them to step into his shoes. As I said in the Unisport video, pun very much intended.
That's very interesting because I think they're trying to do kind of the Michael Jordan thing, like similar to a lot of signature models in basketball, right? Where you have the main guy who they're made for, and then you have a lot of the younger up and coming talent also wearing these boots. Because look, I think it's pretty undeniable now that if you are a professional footballer at 19, 20 years old, you probably look up to Cristiano Ronaldo, and you probably grew up watching a guy like that. Like, it's I think it'd be pretty cool to be not only part of the same brand, but to be associated with him in terms of marketing this specific colorway. I don't know. I think it's a really good idea and a great way for Nike to, I guess, give a chance to some of these younger athletes to really be the face of something aside from just Cristiano Ronaldo, which, I mean, there's been a lot of Cristiano Ronaldo boots over the years. Also, that colorway is going to look so sick with the Juve home kit.
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to look so good.
Nuts. It's going to be nuts. And this is what I think is cool, that, like you said, we've seen so many Cristiano Ronaldo colorways and signature boots and designs over the years. And yes, they could make more, but I actually like the approach of the Dream Speed concept, that this is, they're using him and what he stands for, references to Cristiano Ronaldo, but then they also make it less about him and not just his signature boots. They actually let young people, get a taste of what it means to be not Cristiano, but means to be like a headline Nike player. So I think that's kind of cool. And I also thought when I was looking at it, the very fact that they don't have that gigantic Superfly 5 style toe swoosh on it anymore, which is another thing that CR7 loves and likes to have on his boot. And he's had on his signature boots for I can't remember the last time he didn't. I think on all the chapter boots, he had the big toe swoosh, right? That's gone. It's the big side swoosh now. So maybe that's a little bit of a nod to the fact that it's more everyone's boot now, at least of the Mercurial Dream Speed roster.
Yeah, you're right. Since Superfly 4, they've all had the big toe swoosh. I think you have to go back to some of the Vapor 9s to get the side swoosh like that again.
True.
But yeah, I mean, it's, I don't know. I don't think that there's too much symbolism to the swoosh moving positions. I think it had more to do with the colorway. But you know what? It's cool. I can't be mad at it. Are
you at the point where you think it's just cool and you're not mad at it, or do you actually like it? Because I'm kind of having a hard time sometimes figuring out the Josh hate love spectrum where I think a lot of stuff ends up in the middle where you're not really mad at it, and then you can be not mad at it to certain degrees until you start loving things, right?
Yeah, look, you're right. I wasn't clear in my criticism of this colorway. I think it's a really nice looking colorway, but I also think that it's fairly safe in regards to them recycling patterns that have previously been successful on CR7 boots, which makes sense if it's for CR7. But it's also black and white color combo, which is pretty hard to mess up. And it looks good. To me, this kind of reminds me of the Neymar colorway that had kind of the race car vibe about it. I can't remember what they were called because we can
Speed Freak.
You remember it. It kind of has that vibe to it. But I think that boot had a similar kind of incorporation of interesting patterns, kind of at a similar angle as well. But it did something a little bit more interesting in regards to color combinations, but it worked. That I think was a better example of a unique, well-executed colorway that worked really well. This, it's black and white boot with some interesting patterns. That
there's a few color streaks here and there. I mean, you probably can't see it, but when you twist and turn it, it has this like. See, I don't. Speaking about not knowing the correct word, I'm not gonna jump into this one, but it has this almost like rainbow effect when you.
It's I believe you'd call that holographic.
Holographic. I was gonna say like, iridescent, but it's
here's
not
a funny story.
iridescent.
It could be iridescent too. I'm not sure, but I'll just funny story. Reminded me of like the holographic Pokemon cards that I had as a kid, but never actually knew how to play Pokemon. I just had them to bring them to recess. I had no idea.
It was a pretty nice. It wasn't as awesome as the Game Boy games, and I'm getting sidetracked here, but the card game in itself was actually not bad if you knew how to play it.
No,
but you had to spend a lot of money.
No idea. I had them for like maybe 4 months until we got rid of them. And it was like right when it came out when it was super cool. And like I had them because everyone else had them. And I never played any of the video games. None.
Well, you missed a treat there, but I think there's like a pattern in my life of finding silly things to spend money on. I started spending my money on first like basketball trading cards, and then football trading cards, and then Pokemon cards, and then all these other stupid. I bought yo-yos at one point, like what the? And now I'm spending all my money on football boots and stuff, right? So that's the trend of the life of JayMike, I guess. But yeah, at least I played the game. But I mean, I know what you're saying with the Speed Freak boots, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you did call them the best looking Mercurial Vapor 13 of 2019. Am I right?
I think I did, yeah. And I'll stick by that if I said it.
So by that logic, this is also going to be relatively highly rated. Am I right?
Yeah, no, I definitely would rate that up there, especially for any of the special colorways. But I can't put that above. As much as I wouldn't personally want to wear them, I'd rather wear these MDS 3s. The Mbappe signature in pink is just That's like the Mercurial we've been asking for a remake of for so long.
Yeah, and the future DNA Superfly ones, and the techcrafts are also kind of cool.
Look, they did it good. There's been good colorways for Mercurial this year.
It's been a solid. Okay. Before let's just go through which is the coolest MDS colorway so far. Rank them, please. Rank them.
Oh man, see, I'm kind of last place is MDS 2. We can start there. Gotcha. That's for me. There's no question about that.
Okay.
I like the idea of MDS 1. And I kind of like.
Why are you hesitating? Because it's so easy.
No, I like the idea of MDS 1. I think the blueprint kind of layout is very cool. It's obviously something that they have incorporated a lot in the brand. Look at the launch of the Nike Flight Ball. Kind of has a very similar design style.
And the Vapor 13 from the New Lights pack also had that blueprint kind of style.
Yeah,
that crafted, self-crafted thing. Anyway, go on.
I don't know. I really like that. I like the way that they did the swoosh was a little bit different. I think that was a more unique colorway out of all three of the MDS boots so far. So I just based on the merit of them doing something different that I think actually worked really well, I'm actually going to put that at the 1 spot, and I'll put MDS 3 at the 2 spot. But I really like the MDS 3. I get
your logic. I don't think I'm not as hard to please as you are, because I think I've said I love stuff way more times than you have on the podcast. But I would definitely also say MDS 2 for me, because it's just like there's a little bit too much like Tequila Sunrise, Danish ice cream called Filur over. It's a little bit too much for me. This, I see, blueprint thing is cool, but the fact that they put this alleged Mbappe speed 44.7 kilometers an hour in there as if it's facts. He didn't sprint 40. Like, come on. That's Usain Bolt speeds. He's fast, but he's not that fast. He just, it ruined a little bit for me. And then there's obviously I know there's a little bit of, I can't say this on the podcast, but I'll go with the blasphemy. It has a giant ass ACC logo on it. I don't like it. And with that said, even if the MDS had been super cool, which I think it's nice enough, but this for me is I really like this. I think it's clean and bold and busy at the same time, which is something I enjoy, and it tells a nice story. So that's a clear number one for me.
That's fair. Agree to
but
disagree.
Maybe I'm too easy
again.
to please. Something I also wanted to ask you is, we've seen a lot of like so many comments on people commenting on this new lightning shape of the Nike swoosh that we saw on the neighborhood pack and also on the Mercurials after that. And everyone says it looks like cheap knockoffs from China. And I guess you have seen your fair share of cheap knockoffs. So what is your take on it?
I understand the criticism, and the Nike swoosh is such an iconic logo. Obviously, people love it. For being a deviation of that logo, I don't hate it. Like it doesn't anger me like a lot of the internet seems to be angered.
Then we have it again. I don't hate it. I'm not mad at it. It doesn't anger me. Are these like different levels of satisfaction?
They are. It's a very big scale. But like if you've watched all 82 episodes, then I think you have a pretty good idea of where I'm at on this. No, but
Bruv,
honestly,
I've been in the 82 episodes. I have no idea what you mean. I watched your channel for like 10 years and I have no idea.
No, Jay, I'll be honest. I kind of like it. I think it's kind of cool. I don't think it should be around forever, but as like a temporary kind of switch up in terms of the look of a pair of Mercurials, it doesn't upset me.
Right. Translating that into Jay is going to be difficult because I don't know where we are. But I feel you, I think we agree because I also like it. I'm not even going to pretend I'm half mad at it because I think it's rather cool. That was the first thing I said when I saw the upcoming designs like way back last year. I said, this is going to be such a strong lineup. You know, the Daybreak pack, I think, is super strong. Orange, white, that black lightning swoosh, cool. The black chiller red, cool. Mbappe boots, obviously very cool. Techcraft. It adds a little bit of flair to me. And I like this graphic direction better than the second one they did where they had that almost like checkered graphic on the heel.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was just thinking of other times we've seen a variant of a Nike swoosh. And remember on the final Premier League ball of last season, the white and orange one?
Yeah.
It had that it had the zigzag tail to the Nike swoosh, which I was not a big fan of. Also, another thing that I kind of thought when I first saw the lightning bolt swoosh is it kind of reminded me of the Bape sneakers. I think that's what they're called. It basically looks like an Air Force One with this like zigzag star thing in place of a Nike swoosh. I've always thought those were kind of weird looking, but I think it's also because it's a giant star kind of smack dab in the middle of the boot. So I don't know. I like the simplicity of the lightning bolt swoosh. It's not so different that it takes away from the fact that it's a Nike product. You got the swoosh here?
I got the swoosh here, yeah.
Yeah, see, like that I don't like as much.
Now it looks a little bit weird.
Yeah, it looks fine on a ball. I think that would look very weird on the side profile of a boot. I was also saying it kind of, when I first saw the zigzag swoosh, it kind of reminded me of you familiar with the Bape sneakers? It's like an Air Force One looking design, but it has like this star with a zigzag instead of a swoosh. Weird. I don't know. I've never had a pair. I've never even seen a pair in person, just on Instagram. To me, like that colorway looks great.
But this is an amazing colorway in I know it's white and it's super easy to do, but color gradient, it's got a bit of a neon lights vibe to it. And I think this swoosh just looks faster compared to the normal swoosh on the inside. And, the original one, I like that a lot, but I just like the overall, direction of this new, what on earth have I been doing with, the laces video.
I was going to comment on that. That's very interesting. Very interesting.
Like, why are my laces so, anyways, I like this direction better. And I think it's the best, of the three different graphic looks we've had on the Merc new generation so far. anyways, small, we got sidetracked there. Sorry about that.
Yeah, but you know what? I kind of look at this just to I don't say very many like helpful thing towards big brands, but I'm gonna give Nike a little bit of I'm gonna throw them a bone here.
Okay.
I kind of look at this deviation of a Nike swoosh similar to how Adidas kind of varies the stripes, right? Because you have the Adidas logo, which is kind of like the triangle thing, right? And you typically see the stripes laid out straight, but then they do some curves sometimes. Look at the Predator Mania with the iconic curvature straight down the side, and then curve, and then they narrow. Like that's them playing around with their logo for the sake of design. And I kind of view this as the same thing.
But they don't do it anymore. Like if you look at it, when you have the 3 like performance stripes, they're the same, and yet the placement might be different. I'm just looking at the X's and the Nemesis right now, and the placement, but it's the same like stripes that are there, and it's like. But what was your advice to Nike again? I didn't get it.
I don't have any advice. I'm justifying their modification of a swoosh. For them.
Right, yeah. I mean. Cool, man.
Also, I completely sidetracked, but I just thought of it now because I'm looking back at them. Did you see that picture I posted of the AG X Ghosted Plus next to the Lotto Zero Gravity?
Oh, that was beautiful.
Dude, it's crazy how close those two are. That was like, even the shape. Nuts.
But the funny thing is how different they fit on feet. Yeah. Like I haven't tried the AGXs yet, and you can probably tell me more about. Have you tried the actual FD ones yet?
Not yet. No, they've been hard to get a hold of.
Yeah. So that's the thing. I really want to try them and see. I don't think there's a Carbitex plate in them, but I'm not. I mean, there's not, right?
There's not. Yeah.
Nah. Okay. But I mean, I'm really interested in trying that tooling on the X to see how the fit is compared to when you have that slightly raised toe. But I mean, compared to the Lotto Zero Gravities, the fit is just next level in the X's. It's a good boot, and the more I wear it, the more I'm leaning towards actually being able to not hating them. I don't hate them. Not mad at them. Same thing.
That's good.
Yeah.
They don't make
Anyways,
you upset.
let's move on to some questions. We have a lot to answer today. So let's start right away with David King. Any boots you think were underrated when released and are viewed more fondly post-production? For me, it would be the CTR 360 Maestri 1 and 2s, and I think those are good shouts. I'm just going to kick it off with the first boot I thought about, which is like, and we do it ourselves, but is perhaps a little overrated compared to how much of a fanfare it got when it came out, the Hypervenom Phantom ones. Because I feel like right now we talk about it as one of the big important Nike boots. But I don't remember at the time when it launched, like people lost their minds. It was a good boot and we all appreciated it, But it's not like it didn't get immediate legend status. Status? Anyways, you know what I mean. Don't be a bitch about it. But it wasn't as highly rated, I feel, back then as it is now. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say at the start there were a lot of T90 fans that were extremely upset at the existence of a Hypervenom Phantom 1 because that's what replaced that series. Obviously, a very different direction. So yeah, it wasn't until maybe 6 months on when people got to actually try the boots that they realized, oh, this is really good. Maybe T90s don't need to exist anymore. And then that wasn't everybody's opinion, but I think over time, that boot really changed how not just Nike, but all the brands kind of approach synthetic uppers in general, right? Because that was a transition point from like plasticky synthetics to knitted synthetics, which we're now kind of getting back to how many years later? 7 years later? Yeah. Really good at math. But no, yeah, you're right. At the start, definitely not as well received as it is now. I'm trying to think of something that was like overrated at the start. I think we could say like Superfly 1, 2, and 3. I think you could say a lot of Mercurial models, to be honest. Underrated at the start.
Yeah.
Oh. Well then, Puma King Platinum?
Excellent example. It's
the only situation where there's been a boot that was fantastic that nobody cared about until 1 year, 3 months later. And now everybody's asking, hey, where can I buy the black and white ones? Well, you can't because they don't exist. Can I just comment on this real quickly? Because there's been so many comments that I've seen about this.
Well, I didn't even have to say Neymar's name, and you got triggered. That's amazing.
I know we did an entire episode on this, but I need to point this out for some people, because I think a lot of people understand this. This was not like a crazy, well orchestrated thing by Puma where they've been planning this for months. Neymar leaving Nike and signing for Puma was like a week and a half time period. Like, I don't think Puma thought that there was going to ever even imagine that there's going to be an opportunity for them to sign Neymar, because I think everybody assumed that he was just going to re-sign with Nike.
Of course.
And plus the contract terminated a year earlier, so there was even no planning in terms of him leaving Nike for another year at least. So everything that they've done in the last 2 weeks has been purely like, okay, we need to make a decision in the next half an hour, and that's what we're going to roll with.
So that was a pretty flipping good decision they made, to be fair. Thinking on their toes.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's so many people I see like, oh, they're already working on a signature model for Neymar, and this is going to be coming out soon. No, they're not. They're not. Because they didn't know until 2 weeks ago that they were going to be having Neymar in the brand at all. So they're not working on anything. They might be now, but we're probably not going to see anything signature for Neymar for a little bit. That's why there's no boots to buy. I just want to make that clear for people.
Yeah. No, I get you. I think the King Platinums are a great shout. I also think that, and I don't know if it's just me, but I have some of the boots I've appreciated more now after they've come out. Adidas 11 Pro 2 SLs. I would probably rate them in my top 5 best boots ever made. And I didn't rate them that much at the time because I was young and stupid. Puma Evo Power Vigors. My lord, that is still a boot and a half. And then I'm also going to say the Mercurial Vapor 10s and 11s. I think 11s were maybe a bit more actually rated at the time, but the 10s, I feel lot of people, maybe it's just nostalgia talking, and I think that's often the case with these boots where you don't rate them as much when they're out, and then 5 years after, it's your childhood memories. Oh, these boots were amazing, and in fact they aren't as good when you actually go back and try them. But Vapor 10s, yeah, I would lean towards Vapor 11 as the better boot, but Vapor 10s.
Yeah, no, Vapor 10 is a really good call. I was also, if you're going to talk about SL boots, I think the Crazy Light Preds and the Crazy Light Nitro Charge were both really solid boots.
And
but again, I think it's hard to say these like one-off releases were like underrated though.
Yeah. Well, yeah. 11 Pro Crazy Lights were also, with a black and orange dragon on. Also not bad.
I think I would also say like Copa 19 Plus and even the 20 Plus. I still think that's a boot that people Copa 19 Plus I think was really a situation where it did not get the attention that it should have got because of the launch colorway. I still think that if they had done a better launch colorway, it would have had a better chance at being more popular than it is.
Wow, I couldn't say that. Probably, yeah. You're right. Next question, also actually from David King, asking some good questions here. Do you think an Adidas techcraft pack would turn out better than Nike? Thinking leather Predators in the new X would be reminiscent of the old leather F50s. And I thought about it, and it really depends on if they pull a techcraft Vapor 13 2020 or if they pull a Phantom TC as it's called. Because if they pull a TC, no, it's not going to be better than Nike. It depends on how they make the leather upper. If it's just a leather upper with a nice thin liner, then yes, the Preds could work. We saw that with Animalistic, which was basically a Predator techcraft, so to speak. I guess Nemesis, would I bother putting leather on that? No, I would probably just kill it. X, would it work? I'm not sure it would. I mean, they could do it. But I mean, with Fusion Skin, everything's possible. And I would probably say with what Nike have been doing, it's only... I love what they did with the current Vapor 13 techcraft, but I would probably say if Adidas slapped Fusion Skin on all their boots, it would probably across the board be better, yeah.
Yeah, look, could they do it? Yes. Could the boots be good? Yes. Is there really demand for that?
Nope.
That remains to be seen, right? beyond the very first TechCraft pack from Nike, which was all the way back in like 2014, 15, none of them have really done that well from a sales perspective.
Exactly.
So to me, honestly, it's a little bit surprising that they're still even doing the whole TechCraft thing. I think that just shows how far in advance these things are planned, because I really don't know that we're going to see any more TechCraft packs beyond this point, unless somehow Neymar manages to redeem kangaroo leather football boots. We'll see what happens with that. I still don't think it's going to happen. And just to talk about Adidas, they did do back in 2016, was it called Spacecraft? Yeah. Remember those gold? There was a gold Pure Control and there was a gold X16 Plus, and all they did was chopped off the knitted toe or the synthetic toe and put some leather. And it was just, again, it's the issue that I have with a lot of the TechCraft boots, where it's like this kind of like not so strong effort. I'm gonna say it the nice way. Right?
I saw you actually rated the Phantom TCs better than I thought you would, because I absolutely hate them. I think they're I think they're a disgrace towards the TechCraft name, and they're supposed to be more comfortable boots than the actual Phantom GT. Like what on earth is up with that?
But the only reason I didn't trash them more is because I'm confused as to why they feel that way. Because if you look at how everything's constructed, like I held them in my hands, I'm like, this is a really...
They're not supposed to be stiff.
Right? It's a really ugly boot. But then I'm looking at how they did the internals, and it's kind of like they did a specific liner for this model that actually was like something we've never seen before from the brand. The leather used, it feels very soft to the touch. But for whatever reason, when you have it on your foot, it's anything that was good about the regular Phantom GT is gone, and it just feels really stiff and awkward. Like I don't get it. It's a weird thing. But yeah, that's the problem with taking a football boot that was not designed to be leather in the first place, and then doing as little as possible, because you have to realize when they do these like one-off releases, it's for hype. They're probably not going to make money because they're not making enough of them. And it's just an expensive thing to develop. So they have to really keep it to doing as little change as possible. And it's typically a recipe for a subpar football boot.
Except for if you actually do it right with the vapor. But I guess, Adidas have something going for them, but they also have evidence pointing to the contrary. So it would really have to depend on, do they care enough?
Yeah, look, I want a leather Predator as much as the next guy. But everything else, I don't think a leather X is going to be that great, to be honest.
Nah, I agree. But it is what it is. Speaking of Neymar, the Andrew Vanders has it's probably not a question, it's more like a comment. These guys are again underestimating how much Puma can turn around the king silo with Neymar, especially in a time when lightweight leather boots are trending. Both Adidas and Nike aren't really making leather boots at the moment to write home about, so there's opportunity there. These guys rave all the time about Mizuno Mercurial Neos. Isn't this the perfect direction that the king could go in? A Neymar boot could also carry a price premium, placing Puma boots back in the upper price category with Nike and Adidas. I know what you want to say here, so let me just quickly go first, and I'll let you cool down from I mentioned Neymar's name, so
okay, fine. You can see I'm turning slightly more red as the question went on.
Okay. I understand what you're saying here. I understand where you want to go. Like, this is an opportunity for Puma to actually tell the story of how the King Platinums are a nice boot, and they can tell the story about how they can actually make nice leather boots. I get that. And would it make sense for them to keep him in the King silo? It could, if they really thought about it. But my question is just whether he can generate enough hype over time for them to justify keeping him there. And yes, Mizuno are really, we talk about the Mercurial Neos all the time because they're flipping good boots, and they are the best when it comes to making lightweight leather boots. No one does it better. That's why we talk about them. Are the King Platinums better than the Neos? No, they're not. Yes, you could put Puma in the higher price category, but do they want to be there, or do they actually want to stay at the €200 price point? So they stay, high quality, but for a lower price than the competitors. I think they want to stay there. So yes, it makes sense for me to have Neymar in the King range, but I would probably at some point move him into the Ultras or whatever comes up in the future.
Yeah. I agree with everything you said. And I think that the major difference in opinion that a lot of people have with what we said in the podcast, and certainly with some of the stronger opinions that I've shared, is some people have this very optimistic view of how things in life work. And it's not just with football boots, it's with almost everything, where it's like, if we do these things, we should achieve these results, right?
Right.
But that's
an effect.
And it's not always, here's the plan and everything goes exactly according to plan. Because in a perfect world, yes, Puma could buy the influence of Neymar that we have learned is the biggest endorsement deal for certainly football boots, possibly for all professional athletes. I'm not entirely sure. It's a lot of money, which is why we see why Nike did not want to re-sign him, because that's what he was asking for. Mm-hmm. And in a perfect world, they sign a guy like that and they catapult themselves to, let's say, second place rather than third place behind Nike or Adidas, whoever you want to think that they passed. That's not how this is going to work. And then I also think history tends to repeat itself, right? We have to go by stuff that has actually happened to suggest that this could happen again. And there's never been an instant where a trend that has died in football boot has kind of come back just because of an endorsement, right? We've seen stuff come back, like we've seen the Return of the Predator as an example, but it was the Return of the Predator that was really just a Predator name, and everything that they did about the boot was to evolve to the current times in order to maintain that popularity.
Yeah, it wasn't driven by a player.
No. And I don't think it could have been. I don't think there was any player that they could have picked to really... No. I just feel like the football boot industry is so driven by new ideas and new concepts, and it's great to have these cool stories for colorways and whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, I don't think that's what sells football boots. I still think that the world is so focused in on tech, and regardless of whether or not you think new tech is good or bad for the performance and durability and whatever aspect of football boots you like to believe in, the vast majority of consumers, which are ultimately going to dictate the biggest chunk of the market, they're fascinated with that. And I don't see that changing because Neymar went to Puma.
But would it be fair to say that also the Puma Kings or the King line is never going to be the headline boot for Puma? Like, it's going to be their heritage boot, right? Like, it's just like the Chempo will never...
In 2020, no.
And the Chempo is the oldest, right? The oldest line that Nike have, but they're never gonna take over from the Mercurials because it's just the way it is. Coppers are also like super heritage for Adidas. Is that gonna take over from the? No, that's just not gonna happen. So I see the point, but I just disagree that some silos you just can't make them sexy enough for them to be the headline, even if you have Neymar or not.
And let's look, and there's so much recency bias in this type of, I guess, perspective of how things have gone. Because let's look at the history. There's so many people that said, this guy doesn't know anything about football boots. The Puma King is a historic product. It's one of the greats of all time. And once upon a time, yes, it was. But then we also have to look at what happened through the early 2010s, where the Puma King really turned into this abomination of a plastic, low-quality leather football boot that nobody wanted, to the point where they killed it off. Let's not forget that the King Platinum is not just the latest King, it is the return of the Puma King in the first place, because it didn't exist for several years because the boot was so unpopular after Puma did everything they could to try and bring the Puma King silo into the 21st century, and it didn't work.
You could argue they've done it with the King Platinums, but is it going to be enough for it to like take the center stage alongside Neymar? I don't think it will.
No, I don't see this being a long-term. How are you going to maintain interest on that boot long term? It doesn't seem like it's possible.
No.
But maybe, look, we could be wrong. Maybe episode 127.
And we could.
We're talking about the Puma King as the most popular boot on the market.
But let me just put it this way. Puma King, even if they are to be the most sexy, modern leather boot out there, they have to beat the Mercurial Neos. And as good as the King Platinums are, they're just not better than the Neos, in my opinion. So, yeah. It is what it is. Jumping to a comment that I felt was rather cool. Now that we speak of Mizuno, Ivan Santana. I feel like Mizuno are the mistress when players are cheating on their married brands. And people seem to quite like it. I thought it was funny because we started seeing, different players. Thiago, Granit Xhaka wearing Mizuno boots. And, maybe people are finally starting to realize how awesome they are. And because they deserve that. Wow. Okay. Moving on to the next question. Snape, what do you think are the best boots for wide feet right now?
I think that.
Okay, let me start what you think then. I'm gonna say Puma Futures, Puma Ultras, both are really, really good for wide feet. Phantom GTs, somewhat solid, and the Jambos are also not bad.
Yeah, I was gonna say Puma Ultra and Puma Future, but I didn't want to start with that. But 100% those two for sure.
For me, they're the widest.
I agree with your Nike picks. I know there's so many people on the internet that think Nike is just this narrow brand across the board compared to Adi. But I think in terms of like wide fit right now, you're right. The Phantom GT and the Tiempo are going to be better wide fitting options than pretty much anything from Adi right now. Adi right now is not a very wide fitting brand, especially with the material choice that they've gone for through the midfoot specifically. Like you look at the Copa, especially like Copa 20.1, it seems like, it'd be a really good choice if you had wide feet. It looked kind of wide.
No.
But the material through the midfoot is so stiff that it really has like no stretch or give to it.
Yeah. You could also say, Mizuno Regular Cups are also, I have a couple of friends with really wide feet who also enjoy those. I don't think they're as wide. They don't feel as wide as the Regulars for some reason. And also, actually, two of my colleagues, Jolter and PWG, they wear the Preds and they have like proper wide feet and they enjoy them. So I think they're also not bad. And then, of course, you can go for the wide options of the New Balance boots. Just stay away from the Tequila 3 because it's not really very good. But the Furon 6s in a wide option could also be a pleasant experience, I think.
Yeah, and then the obvious, the Copa Mundial, the Nike Premier 2, I think is a solid option if you want something more simple. Yeah, like out of the current stuff, I think what we just mentioned is probably your best bet.
I wouldn't with a wide foot. I wouldn't take the Copa Mundials because the tooling is too narrow for me. There's going to be too much overhang.
Yeah, and tell me if you agree with this, but I feel like when this question is asked, I think it's typically a situation where a lot of people don't understand how a football boot should fit. Where they put on a football boot and it fits them, but because it fits so snug, different from their running shoes or their casual wear shoes, or even like shoes from any other sport, they think that they're too tight and they need something wider. Football boots are supposed to fit a little bit tight. It's pretty normal for them to feel very snug, especially when they're brand new. So just bear that in mind. If you put a pair of football boots on and they're a little bit snug, but they're not like killing your feet in any way, they're probably okay.
A good fit.
You just need to break them in a little bit.
Some questions here. There are pretty big questions that we should probably answer next time. There's one from Riz. Do you recommend the Puma King Platinums or the Puma King Pros? Well, it depends on your budget, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, let me put it this way. The Puma King Pros are some of the better value for money boots out there. I mean, if you go for that, €100 price range, €120 price range, they are some of the better options. I'm not going to say they're the best, but you get a lot of no-nonsense leather boot for the money. And I appreciate them for that. I think they're €100, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think they retail for $100. I'm not sure what the European price. I think the confusion with those two boots is there's a lot of people that are now interested in leather boots for the first time ever. And I think a lot of people assume that a leather boot is a leather boot is a leather boot. And that's not entirely true. So despite looking so similar to each other, the King Platinum is a significantly better product in terms of quality of leather, the way that it fits, the sole plate quality. I know that Neymar appears to be wearing something like the Pro, but I guarantee you it's a better quality sole plate than what the Pro has. So King Platinum is by far the better boot of the two. And King Pro, while not a bad option, I think if you're just interested in a leather boot at a lower price point, I'd much rather have a Nike Premier 2. I think the quality of the leather, the way that it feels on feet, it's for me, better than a King Pro. But if you just must have a Puma King, then the King Pro is solid for the money.
And
especially if you can get it on sale, because they haven't been very popular.
And if you're spending that sort of money, I mean, go for one of the Legend 8 Pros on sale, and you can get them for more or less the same money. And I would say that's the best takedown leather boot you can get in the sub €100 price range.
Yeah.
Okay, just looking through some of the questions here, we have someone asking some really long, very complex question. We should probably save those for later. But sure. Okay, well, let's just take that one for your for your amusement. Brad24. If that boot, in reference to the Puma King Platinums, has been sitting on the shelf for a year, and as soon as Neymar starts wearing them, they start selling out, it just shows you that people haven't got a clue about anything and are just sheep. They just follow instead of being leaders and their own person. And I'm like, Josh?
I made several extra accounts to leave comments on the last episode. But yeah,
Brad is very mad, apparently.
Brad sounds pissed.
Yeah, Brad is proper pissed about this.
But no, that was my argument. And look, there's nothing wrong with like following a trend. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I just think it's absolutely hilarious how like we could make as many videos. We could say the Puma King Platinum was the football boot of 2019, and it wouldn't even make a dent in its popularity. Not to say that we're like this, like we're the gods of football boots or something like that, but I think the amount of views that a video like that could potentially get, the amount of people it would influence would be very small.
It would probably influence some people, and thank you guys, we love you, but the majority of people wouldn't give a shit about what we say. Sorry, pardon my French. But
it is what it is, right?
You're right. And in that sense, that's why it was such a brilliant idea for Puma to sign Neymar, because obviously he does have some sway and he will change things. But my question is just whether that will continue. And it's just like, yeah.
I also really like the people who have been commenting saying that, hey, I bought Puma Kings like a year ago, and now everyone's going to think I'm a Neymar fanboy. I love that perspective. Yeah. That's funny to me. It's true, though.
I feel sorry for you guys. You bought one of the best value for money boots out there, and now you're just a Neymar fanboy.
But it's like I don't want to call it like hipster mentality, but it's like you bought this boot that's like this kind of like hidden secret amongst the football boot community, and now all of a sudden it's like risen to like top popularity and notoriety, and now it just looks like you've jumped on the bandwagon like everyone else. I love it. It's great.
Just imagine if Neymar had actually like really taken the plunge and switched to Mizuno instead. Like, just imagine how many connoisseurs out there would just be sad thinking, oh my God, what have they done? Now I'm just going to look like everything I despise. Like a sheep, basically.
I would have loved to have seen, now that we've seen the power of a guy like Neymar, the influence that he has, Mizuno is a great one because obviously they make great boots and we know this, but like, let's say he switched to Under Armour, or he switched to like New Balance, or he switched to one of these brands that's had a really, really rough time in terms of like garnering any kind of reputation. Like Puma is a brand everyone's aware of.
Of course. But would he want to do that? That's my question. Like, would Neymar actually want to go to Under Armour or New Balance? I mean, Sadio Mane is a pretty big deal. Obviously, he's not Neymar level in terms of publicity and PR pull, right? But is he making a difference for New Balance? I don't really think he is.
I don't think so either. But I also don't think he's Neymar is one of, like, if you want to talk about like top 5 endorsement, we talked about this in the last episode.
Messi is God level when it comes to that. Like, he's God tier. That's just the way it is. But still, I mean, Neymar, when you're done with Puma, I dare you, go to Mizuno, elevate them to the position they ought to be in. Then we'll take it from there. I'll take 10%. And then I'll retire.
Yeah, 10% would be a good chunk.
Yeah. Anyways, guys, I think that's what we had time for today in order to not make this podcast an hour plus. We get a bit of flack for when we do that. So we're gonna kill it off gently today. We're gonna keep some of the questions for next time. And do remember that if you have some questions that you'd like us to answer, you can leave them in the comment section right down below. Of course, also don't forget to give a thumbs up to the video if you enjoyed the content. Enjoy seeing Josh going into his weekly fit of rage over hearing Neymar's name. Leave us a like on that if you had a good time. If you want to see more rants, you can check out Josh's channel right over there. Go subscribe to him. You can also see what we're up to at Unisport, reviewing all the latest and greatest stuff. And of course, you should go subscribe to the best football podcast on the internet. Click the white bubble in the middle of the screen. And with those words, I've been JayMike, and I approve this message. Cheerio.